Welcome, everybody, to our favorite time, Sunday night. As always, Global Strangeness. Some not so strangers anymore, getting together with the love of paranormal and spooky and everything that goes bump in the night. We've expanded our team, as most of you followers know. It's myself. We have Jeremy, the OG. We have Michael and Captain Hello. Scott. And this week we have a guest, and we're all super excited to have her on. It's Helena B. Scott. What can I say? How to even introduce you? Writer, historian, linguist, medium, psychic investigator, and a spiritual and wellness, spirituality and wellness coach. So, I mean, you name it, you do it. So really excited to get into conversation. I was just saying before we jumped on here, the last time we spoke, it was supposed to be a quick little 15-minute thing, and I think we went on for about 3 hours and probably could have went on even longer. So
we did.
The lady does it all. Get ready to be prepared to be wowed, everybody, because yeah, she does it all. She has lots to share. So
thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely.
So, Helena, I know you want to talk about your books. You have a couple of them. You have them with us,
yes.
you. So if you'd like to, you can introduce your books. You can share where people can find you on social. We'll do it again at the end as well, so people know where to find you and follow.
Sure. So the first book I released in Ireland's Most Haunted House. I have written other books. I've written up to 15, 16 other books to date under other pen names. But the one that I want to showcase today is obviously the one on Loftus Hall. Loftus Hall is Ireland's most haunted house in the south of Ireland, and it has a legend, a very old legend with the devil in a game of cards. But I found that the true legend of the house is much more haunting, the true tale, than the actual tale of the devil. And I discovered ley lines. I discovered it was connected to Freemasonry, the Knights Templar, so lots of things. So this is the book. It's quite a big book. I call it a murder weapon, so 7 pounds. And it received really good reviews from the Irish Times, from the history editor of the Irish Times. I'll show a little bit on the inside. I mean, there are videos of the book. People can go online and see it. Unfortunately, this book is sold out. It was a collector's limited edition, so 300 pages, silk paper. The cover, I designed the book as well, so I didn't just do the research and write it, but everything you see here is created by me. So with a publisher, obviously, but I mean, the design, everything. So the Loftus Hall family was a Masonic family. That's a Masonic floor that you see right there. And that for me, even though there's nothing paranormal about that picture, but it's a very important picture because this one, I'll show it again. The shadows, the lights, and the dark on the ground. We're talking about Freemasonry. We talk about light and dark, obviously, the checkerboard pattern, but we also talk about the main character, the star of the story, Anne Tottenham, who was a girl who got pregnant out of wedlock, supposedly with the devil. And for me, she lives in the shadows between the other world and this world, and that's her. So the family's coat of arms is embossed. We have silver on the spine. I work very much with alchemy. So this is about the feminine, the silver, as opposed to the gold in alchemy. So, and in the pictures, let me just see if I can find some of them for you. They're full-size prints. The photography was done by my colleague, Steve Myler. Steve Myler worked as a forensic photographer with Metropolitan London Police, and he was the head of forensic photography for New Scotland Yard. So what we have in common is that we both worked in forensics with the police. I worked as a student when I was studying law, anthropology, and archaeology and history. And one of the subjects was criminology, and for extra credit, you could once a week on the Wednesdays with, it was a magistrate's court house number 13, of course it would be, and you would do the out of hours. So any murders, any suicides, you would go with the coroner, certify the deaths, you know, all the legal stuff. And my colleague Steve did the photography, but in London. So we had very similar backgrounds. I mean, a lot of people refer to us as the modern Mulder and Scully. from the X-Files, but in the paranormal. So, pretty much. But I'm rambling on about this because I want to share, if I'm allowed, the story of how we met. Steve
Absolutely.
Steve is not a believer. Was not. I correct myself. Was not a believer until he worked with me. And he was involved in the London bombings, in the tsunami as well, that happened, and a lot of things. I mean, he's been a lot of times in with the police with really difficult things, to photograph. But we both moved to the area. Okay, I don't believe in coincidences. I moved to Ireland in 2015, the same year as Steve. We both moved in the summer 2015 from abroad. He was in the UK. I was in Spain then at the time. I've lived everywhere, but I was in Spain then. And we moved to the same village at the end of a road, and in the middle is Loftus Hall. So we're already neighbors. What are the chances that two people that work in the same, fields would move to this remote village of 700 people, So that was kind of eerie. But the way we met, I spent a night at the hall. Okay. I avoided it for a year because I worked with the paranormal, and every time that I get involved in an investigation, it becomes a bit personal. It takes a little bit of a toll on you sometimes. So I moved here. Nobody knew me. I was starting a new life. I'm a single mom, so I have a son. And there was this gorgeous house, abandoned house, stately home, looking at me, calling me. But I thought, no, I'm not going to go there. And I avoided it for a whole year until I received an email. I received an email saying I had won a competition to stay overnight at the hall with a team of paranormal investigators. I hadn't entered a competition. Nobody knew me because I just moved from abroad. So how did they even have my email? I took that as a cue that the house wanted me there. So I know that spirits can manipulate electronic devices. It is possible. I'm friends with Steve Parsons. He was the former head of chairman of the SPR in the UK. He's written a book, Ghostology, and Dr. Carl Cooper as well, Paracoustics, and they work very much in this area, that we can have contact from the other side through electronic devices. So it is possible. So I went and I wrote a little kind of write-up of my experience. And just to summarize it, yes, it was haunted. But for me, the most disturbing part was the land. Nobody had spoken about the land, the energy in the area. That for me was much more haunting than anything that was in the house. And when I got in the house, yes, there were spirits. There always are. These are old homes, But in my 30 years of working with the paranormal and being an intuitive since I was age 7, I have never, ever encountered a spirit that was afraid, that had so much fear. A spirit that was, I couldn't go home. I was traumatized. I couldn't leave her there, and I felt that there was another spirit that wasn't letting her. This is Anne, the girl whose portrait, as we assigned her, I was talking about. And I actually returned the next day at lunchtime because I felt bad for her. So I wrote a story about this, and my colleague saw it in the paper, on the blog. They put it in the blog as well. And I was picking up my son from a camp or some school thing nearby. And as I had time to kill, I went to a graveyard because they're nice to visit sometimes, the peace and the messages that I get, And sometimes in my life, there will be things that happen that draw me to a certain place, a person, a door, a house. I don't know what it means, but I have to take a picture of it. So there was a grave with the name Myler on it. I didn't know any Mylers, but I took the photo, and probably I would meet somebody along the line that would mean something with that. So sure enough, 4 days later, I get a Facebook message from a Stephen Myler. And it was my colleague who had read the little story on the blog of Loftus Hall, my experience, and he sent me a message saying, look, I worked with the police. I read your story. I'm living in the area. I very much would like to meet with you and work with you. And that's how we met. But
I love hearing that you follow your intuition like that, because I bet you so many people you have this sort of feeling, but then you just don't listen to it. But it's so cool when you do, and how everything lines up like that. That's so cool.
The synchronicity in that story is freaking amazing. Like,
yeah,
just the pure synchronicity of it.
Well, the invitation, the house wanted me there clearly. And a series of circumstances that have, since then, this was 2015, 2016, when I actually first went to the house. Now we're 2023. But the house has continued to call out to me. And in fact, everybody else, now it's been refurbished and it's going to be a hotel. And the manager is one of my biggest fans of my work. And initially I had a lot of issues with the house. There's a team of paranormal investigators there and they didn't want me there for whatever reason. They felt threatened. They didn't want me there. So I had a very hostile time with that, But the house has made sure that I'm the one that gets to come back. And that's quite nice. That's quite nice. Well, yeah, karma, I don't know, but I wanted to give the house a voice, because for 300 years they were telling the same story of the devil and the cards, and that was not even the real story to begin with. That was a metaphor. So spirits want to be heard, I think, and they will make themselves heard to the right people, and I think that's necessary sometimes for them to find peace, for them to know what happened to them and move on. I'm more of a ghost whisperer in that sense than a ghost hunter. I like to give them back their stories.
Yeah, and that's lovely to hear. We have all kinds of investigating teams come on, and there's a real difference. Some people are there for kind of the show, or
yes,
clickbait or whatever, and then some people really have a connection with actual spirits and care about the authenticity of the message and stuff. So it's always lovely to hear when you're actually connected for real and sharing an authentic story. And real life stories are always so much better than the made up fun ones.
The story book.
Zach Baggins.
Yeah. Just let me just show you, because I forgot the smaller version of the book. Just before I go on for that. So this is the paperback that's out now, by the way. If anybody wants to order that, it's on Amazon. And just the size, it's quite a big paperback as well. So you see the other book and this one. Okay. It's got less photos.
Still murder with it if you had to.
Yes, you could. Yes. So one thing that I just want to add to this, and sorry I interrupted you about Zach, because he was in the house indeed. So the stories about the house, I can't take credit for writing this book on my own, because the house wrote it with me. So one of the things that, as a medium, as a light trance medium and mental medium, like Lorraine Warren, very much so, I have engaged in spirit writing, not really wanting to, but it's happened. And I would wake up and chapters would be written, and, in the morning I would have things. I would even have notes that have led me to documents in the archives to find documents. That's something that I feel has been helped from the house for me. And just one example, because it was beautiful. It was really nice how this happened, of how the spirits helped and wrote the book with me and wanted to be heard, was one of the days I was over there. We were filming, taking photos, and they actually shot a movie there. They shot The Lodgers, which has nothing to do with the story of the house. But it's a nice movie. It's atmospheric. It's a ghost story between two brothers, a sister and a brother. It's quite nice. But anyway, and they'd been shooting there. So when we went upstairs into the landing, which is one of the photos I sent you, it's a really beautiful landing with one of the blue photos, I think, if you can show it later. That's where I met Anne, the spirit of Anne, at 2 a.m. But we were trying to get into the rooms there, and the door was locked. And the owner was gone. He'd left us the keys. So if we couldn't get in that door, that day was lost, and he wasn't going to come back for the next few weeks, So at that point, I feel things normally in my body. And it's usually, I always ask my students when I teach workshops about where the soul is. Okay. And the soul for me is in the heaviest part of the body, which is the gut. That's why we talk about having a gut feeling. I've got a gut feeling that because knowledge arises from the bottom up, and that's your soul talking. And I had a gut feeling that I had to go downstairs. So everybody's upstairs and you see me run downstairs. I didn't know where I was going. And I walked into one of the rooms and then through that room into the ladies' drawing room. And I went to the mantelpiece and I just put my hand out and there was a knob for the door there. The knob that was missing to open the door upstairs. So I went upstairs with the knob, I put it in, and everybody was like freaking out, like, how, where did you find it? How did you know? I said, I didn't. They guided me there. So that's how they work with me.
See, and again, follow your gut feelings or your intuition because it's magical.
It is. It is. Jeremy,
So,
sorry, I cut you off before. Oh, Michael, go on.
I have a question. You mentioned the land, and
Yes.
you said you had a very strong reaction to the land. Can you give us some detail on what did that feel like? What were you experiencing, with respect to the land versus the house?
So the land has, I always say that we blame things on a house and we say that this house is possessed or is haunted or, but houses at the end of the day only they take on the personality of those that live within. I think they're very neutral places, to be honest. So, but the land,
won't die in the middle of the night.
Sorry?
Oh, good. My wife was talking in the background.
Oh, okay. I thought we had an uninvited guest.
Oh, in my garage, that is a high possibility, actually, from what I've been told. But
oh, well, you never know. These Irish ghosts are very sociable, so
I don't know. I don't know what type they are, but some of them are just not that light. Put it that way.
No. So sorry, Michael, going back to your question. So the land that the house is on is actually one of the oldest inhabited parts of Ireland. Okay. So that's significant because we've had Druids there, we've had Vikings, we've had the Knights Templar, got that land. The Normans came in, all of the invaders who come in from the east, as I say, which is the element, of air. If you talk to the Druids, and they laugh at me because I say, what is it with the land in Ireland? The elements are so present, I can feel them, and they gave me a giggle. And if you picture the map of Ireland in your head, okay, right now, just there. So the 5 elements, okay, which, you look at Ireland and we talk about the invaders coming in for the air, okay? In the north, we've got the earth. Why do we have the earth in the north? Because we have the flint mines, and flint is associated with chthonic goddesses like Hecate. So it's the earth, the mother earth, the caves, the underground. In the west, we have the West Atlantic Way, the Wild Atlantic Way, which is water, because it's the Atlantic Way. And in the south, we have the equator. We're getting close, it's fire. So we're getting close to the Mediterranean, the hotter lands. And in the middle, which is really interesting, we have the middle is the center place, like the heart chakra, where the spirit is. And in the middle of Ireland, you will have the most haunted sites. So you will have Clonmacnoise, the monastery, you will have Kennedy Castle, Charleville, Leap Castle, all of these. Why in the center? There was a concept in antiquity of center places, and this is very, very present in Ireland. So much so that when the Pope, John Paul, came here in the 1980s and he visited Clonmacnoise Monastery, he gave a speech and he referred to Ireland as the center place, as that place being the center place of Ireland, which is a concept that has been used since ancient times to refer to places that are thin places. But for example, Jerusalem was once the center place of the world, the navel of the world. We have omphalos stones, okay? And a variation of the omphalos stones for the Druids, the earlier people here, would have been stones that we have in the land. I do a lot of work with, people giggle, but phallic architecture, the standing stones that are male, phallic, that pin the land, that's feminine, because the land is feminine. So we have in the Hill of Ushnash, we have a big stone in the middle. And that is the holiest place in Ireland where all the kings came to be crowned and they got their power. And you have the Hill of Tara next door as well. That's really the place of the kings. But the Hill of Ushnash, they do these beautiful celebrations. They've done it for thousands of years to celebrate the changing of the seasons, you know, and leaving the darkness and going into the light. The darkness, Ireland's very dark in the winter, and the Romans, when they got here, they called it Hibernia, because there was nothing else to do but hibernate. It was cold, it was damp, you know. So what the Druids referred to as that period was the dark. It was the dark. It was the period where you took rest, you regained your strength, and you made plans for the things that you were going to do. And that's also why the Knights Templar were here. They would come here. A lot of people don't understand that Ireland is very important to the Templars and all of these invaders. And the Templars worked with energy. So going back to the land, I've given a little detour, but so to understand, I work with sacred geography, okay, the sacred places, where the heavens meet the earth, the thin places. And Ireland, for me, is one of the strongest places and can be seen as the hub of the paranormal, very much so, because not just the ley lines and the chakras and the old places, because it is one of the oldest places, but Ireland was once on the edge of the known world, okay? The edge of the known world, it's the threshold. And who dominates, who reigns over the thresholds? Hecate, the goddess, chthonic goddess, the goddess of spirits, of witchcraft, of magic, of necromancy, many other things. The elements, the sea, the sky, the air, you know. And of course, it was called Ireland after the goddess Eir, the Norse goddess Eir of healing, or Eru, the Celtic goddess. So in darkness, when we are plunged in life into the underworld and we have adversity in life and we go into darkness, we go into our cave, we go there. This is alchemy again. You know, we have birth, death, and resurrection. The underworld is the threshold between the birth and the resurrection. It's the place where you go to die, to be reborn, like in the mysteries, in the ancient mysteries. So Ireland is very strong in that. I myself, and I'm going to share it here with you guys today, I had cancer in 2019 when I was here in Ireland, cervical cancer. I had surgery as well. And I'm 47, believe it or not, but I'm 47. And I've had a very difficult life, parents, things. And in Ireland, I died. And not physically. I mean, I almost died physically, but I really, really died. I spent a lot of time doing healing, deep healing. It will bring up these feelings in you. And a lot of people have said to me, I can't travel to Ireland. The energy is too strong. I can't handle it. Because it will force you. It will kill you so that you can be reborn. So that's one of the ways that you can feel it. But for me, when I went to the peninsula, the Hook Peninsula, where this house is at, I felt a pull in my stomach. Some days I would be nauseous, throwing up, migraines, headaches, things would move, chairs, things would move in the house. It was very normal. I mean, I told my son, get used to it. It's not going to happen. They're not going to hurt you, but it's the energy. We're on a ley line. And I felt that we were on ley lines because for a very small place, why would you have a castle, a Templar chapel, another Norman castle, another one, you know, a Bronze Age burial mound, a place where they found Ogham stones? This is a very, very small place. We're talking about a few miles with all of this stuff, you know. So having been trained in archaeology, you know, and this comes from the archaeologist Alfred Watkins. He wrote a book in 1925, The Old Straight Track. He was the first one to coin the term ley line. Having been trained in that and all the work done afterwards by Mitchell and Devereaux, you know, and all these great men in energy work, I realized that there had to be ley lines in that area. And the Knights Templar followed ley lines. In fact, they marked them in their buildings, and that's how they got to Jerusalem. The Camino in Spain, the Camino of Santiago, of Compostela, the Field of Stars, you know. So I said to my colleague when we were working in the book, there have to be ley lines here. This is what I'm feeling. And ley lines are significant, and they were, and I mapped them, and we can get into that later if you guys want. I sent you guys some photos as well. And they're connected to the architecture of the hall. I mean, that was mapping the what you have behind you, Michael, the as above, so below.
Correct.
that was mapping that. It was mirroring the heavens. What is in the heaven is mirrored on the earth. And that came from Egypt, Egypt was believed to be the cradle or the mirror of the heavens. But anyway, I said to him, there have to be ley lines here because of the energy and everything. And ley lines, people would build buildings on these ley lines, and what they are invisible energy lines. So I work with chakras a lot. For me, the ley lines are very much like the meridians or the channels that we have in our body, connecting the energy points. So I see them. We have chakras in our body, energy points in our body. This is all invisible. And we have the same thing on the earth. And this is important because spirits, demons, entities need energy. Everything is energy. And there was a belief in antiquity that spirits could only move in a straight line. So if you were trying to block the passage of spirits, you would build in that ley line, you would pin it like the phallic posts, like the standing stones, you would pin it. And you could actually tap into the energy of those ley lines yourself and do things with that. The church found out about that. And we'll get into that later if you want as well. I wrote, because I gave an event in the Knights Templar.
Speaking about the church, have you made it to the Vatican yet?
Have I what?
Have you made it to the Vatican yet?
Fucking Scott in the Vatican. Scott in the Vatican.
I've been in the Vatican. I lived in Italy for 2.5 years, so I've been in the Vatican. But when my father was a diplomat, not investigating things. But I have a few words to say to them. Just very quickly, just for fun. If you let me, this is related to the Templars, but it was the anniversary, 716th year anniversary of the arrest of the Knights Templar on Friday the 13th. And I had so many paranormal things happen. My laptop crashed on the floor on its own 20 minutes before the presentation. So I had to give a presentation like this with no PowerPoint or anything, because it died. It was on the floor. But anyway, regarding the Vatican, there was a document that came out from the Vatican by Barbara Frale, who is the Italian activist of the Vatican. And this document that was published in 2007 supposedly was discovered by chance, by surprise. Oh my God, we discovered a document that absolved Templars. And the poor Templars were innocent for 700 years, but this document was filed incorrectly and we didn't know about it. And now we're going to forgive them and, absolve them and all these things. That's really wonderful. But actually, it was a strategic marketing initiative by the Vatican. Because that document, okay, if you work with these things, that document was the parchment version, okay, and the parchment is called a mundum in documents of the records of Chinon and the interrogations of the Templars. But you would always, in old times, and this was done, and we know because we have the records, you would have the draft versions, the rubrices, okay? These are the draft versions in paper. That was published in 1907 by a German guy called Finke, okay? So what this lady, Barbara Frale, suddenly discovers in 2007 was already public in 1907. And guess what? The church had said nothing until 2007. But I mean, we're losing popularity. We're losing, Christians, let's get some popularity back. What are we going to do? Well, we found this document. Let's absolve the Templars. So I have a lot of words to have with the Vatican at some point, because I think that they're not innocent at all in what happened to the Templars. And, I was baptized a Catholic. But I think, and I loved, by the way, Father Gabriele Atmorth, the exorcist. For me, he's great. I have his book on my bedside. Men like him should be heading the Vatican, not anything else, because the church has done a lot of damage, and it always takes advantage of things. And to add to the Templars, this document that came out in 2007, which everybody who's a historian who's a worthy historian knew that this was out in 1907, but you know what they did? They actually made 800 copies of this document, and they sold it, 800 copies at 5,900 euros, so $6,000. So on top of knowing that the Templars were innocent for 700 years and making a very good use of this occasion to exploit it, for their own purposes as a marketing initiative, they charged $6,000 each, profiting from the death of innocent men, still 700 years later. So that's what I've got to say about the Vatican.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if nothing else, they're a large business with PR.
I mean, me and Scott always say, if the zombie apocalypse happens, we're going to the Vatican.
Yes. Yeah.
I think they need to turn over their library. I don't think it's right that they haven't. I think the rest of the world needs to see it.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
All the Library of Alexandria is there, I guarantee it.
I did a post on that on the Library of Alexandria and Hypatia, her poor tragic end. How she ended. That was tragic, very much. But she was a woman ahead of her times, like the Templars. People like that. They just. I think there's always, if we look at Freemasonry, for example, we talk about the two pillars. The church and the state, and there's always a struggle of power between one or the other, and that is very much what happened to the Templars. That's why they ended. There was a struggle between the Philippe le Bel. He wanted to be the most Christian king of Europe, and he wanted to control the church, and he wanted the Templars out. He wanted to even merge them with the Hospitallers and place himself as the head of that, and even dictate, the church and tell them what to do. And with Loftus Hall, I'm talking about Freemasonry because it's very, very relevant. When I got there and I realized that there were ley lines, of course, I went through maps and I went looking at the what had been removed, what hadn't been removed, throughout the ages. And I realized that I had exactly 12 markers for one of the ley lines, 9 for the other. You need to have at least 4 or 5, better for it to be considered a ley line. But then I had another one that was cutting across. So I had 3 crossing at Loftus Hall, creating a vortex in Loftus Hall. Of course they would. When I came into Loftus Hall, that feeling that I feel in my stomach, I stood in the corner of one of the rooms and I felt that there was a vortex there. And sure enough, after I did the work, there was. And somebody came in with a geopathic stress, the machines and stuff, and they measured it, and I was correct as well, except that I used my own body. I didn't use machines. But anyway, going back to the ley lines and everything, as above, so below happens in the house. And those ley lines, those markers, obviously are mirroring something else in the sky. And this was depicted in the architecture of the hall. And it had been missed by historians for so long. There's a picture that I sent you guys. I don't know if we can put it on the screen. It's a floor with a star in the middle. If we could draw that out.
I believe I can. Give me 1 second.
Great.
So that's so interesting, first of all, that you're the first one to sort of put this all together and be able to prove that it's there and it's accurate. Mm-hmm. You were saying that it's going to turn into a hotel, though?
Yes. So it went up for sale. So they've closed for haunted tours and it's been bought. And now it's called Ladyville House. It's no longer called Loftus Hall. So Ladyville House, there you go.
Is there like a vortex room, or like where is that?
So I don't know if we can make that any bigger at all. Yeah. Okay. So this room, is you've got a big star in the middle there, and there's a star within a star and another star. And then within, there's little clusters on the floor right now. So those clusters basically contain an 8-pointed star. And in the middle, there's the cross pate of the Templars. And they're surrounded by crosses of the Knights of St. John as well. But that big star in the middle is important, okay? Because that star, if you are familiar with the Solomonic grimoires of King Solomon, the Goetia and the Lesser Q Solomon and all of these, and you know that Solomon built his temple using a ring to command angels and demons with seals, that particular star and what's in it corresponds to one of the seals, to Duke Astaroth, the great Duke of Hell, okay? But it also matches something. It matches the Milky Way. So when I told my colleague all the markers of the ley lines, and to see if he could put it into a software, to see like Newgrange is aligned to the sun on the winter solstice, if they align to anything. We were in his kitchen, and it was quite an eerie moment, because he turned around and he said a swear word. But he's like, you're not going to believe it. You know, and at that point, his cat darted across the room. And I said, okay, give me the date, Steve. The 31st of October. That's the day that the ley lines align to something. And I said, okay, so what do they align to? The Milky Way. So the Milky Way is a portal. So on the thinnest day of the year, where the veil is thinnest, which the portal is more open. You know, some people say in Ireland there is no barrier. The portal is always open. I kind of agree with that. But on Halloween Eve, we have a Milky Way alignment with the ley lines. And the Milky Way is Jacob's Ladder in Freemasonry. It's a portal. But that is the Milky Way right there, that star that you're looking at. So that was illustrating the as above, so below. And the Masons knew that, because Freemasons work with that. So then I looked at the cluster of stars, and I said, this is, I've seen this before. And I was correct. It happened to be the emblem of the Order of St. Patrick. The Order of St. Patrick is among the top 3 oldest Masonic orders in the world. Guess who are the founding knights of this order? 2 members of the Loftus family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we have a square of compass around the windows, and we have figs, and we have lots of things. And then on the sides of the room, you have the cardinal points marked. So you see the little squares on the side. So I went around with the compass, and of course they were. So this room, okay, very much like the Temple of Solomon, when you would come in and you had the gate and you had a main room. This is the room between the gate, okay, and the Holy of Holies, which is the door right there where you cannot go in. And this would be a ceremonial room, very much so. And of course, it's mirroring the whole concept of the Milky Way. So this had been missed for 300 years. For me, this is much more interesting than a game of cards and the devil. And the game of cards and the devil is Masonic as well. It has a lot to do with what the Freemasons did and the Knights Templar when they met. So,
well, it's way more interesting and way more important, you know.
And it's true. It's not made up. It's true.
So,
yeah.
So when they're making this into a hotel, like I'm assuming it's a building that has, like here in Canada, there's historical buildings, so you have to keep everything intact. Is that, you know, they won't be able to take that out, or is it protected somehow? Because what a shame.
It's not protected, actually. That's a shame in Ireland.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but the manager of the hotel was following my work. My book, the big one that you saw before, was sold out. And because it was sold out, and the libraries, it was such a valuable book, they wouldn't loan it out. She was actually going to the library all the time to read the book. And she finished reading it. She loved it. And she's been following my page for years, until I went to one of the castles here one day, and the manager said, "Hey, Helena, you're Helena, right?" And I said, "Yeah." "Okay, so the new manager of Loftus Hall is looking for you because she wants to buy your book, and she's one of your biggest fans and whatever." So I got in touch with her. Lovely, lovely person, Paula Fernandez Porta, that's her name. And we met. And she showed me the mood boards and everything that was going to be going on with the hotel. And we're talking because we're planning to do things together there. History-wise, paranormal-wise, not really. But I mean, there'll be, you know, the history talks, certainly workshops, possibly. Maybe the history of the hotel in plaques, you know, outside and inside, and maybe a history brochure as well. But she came along to my lunch online, and I mean, she has said, and I will take her up on that. I hope she keeps her word. I'm sure she will. That I will be the first unofficial guest once it's safe enough to enter. So I will definitely be able to come back if you guys want, and tell you what's going on, and maybe we'll be even able to do a night there or something, you know. But I've seen it from the outside. It looks like they're trying to keep the style of the hotel, obviously, on the outside. On the inside, it has been changed quite a lot, but they've done really good work in research. And while it's a modern interior, it's modern, but it's kind of in the line of a house in the 1800s in a way, you know. So it has respected that, and they're using quality materials. It's going to have a lovely swimming pool in the courtyard, which I think is going to be interesting with the energy. We'll see about that one. But it's I'm excited because, like I said, houses are neutral. And when I was there in the summer, I was very worried about the spirits because I left for various reasons because this paranormal group came back and I didn't want to be in the house anymore. I felt that the people who were there at the time were not there with the right intentions. And I couldn't do any more, you know, so I left. And one of the characters in the book, Seth, who's very crucial for the Freemasons and the Templars and the Children of Seth. But Seth is the lover of this girl. So the love story is true. There was a woman called Anne Tottenham. She did get pregnant out of wedlock. The body, it's believed to be hers. The body of an infant was found buried in the wall, which is terrific, you know. And if one does research in Ireland, history research, we have the mother and baby homes. And there was a tradition until 1983, women were putting these homes for getting pregnant out of wedlock. 1983, that's not so far ago, you know. And they found in Tuam, this other historian found 3,000 children murdered by nuns, okay? And they were buried behind the wall in a septic tank, the same way as the baby of Anne Tottenham.
By nuns? So because they were out of wedlock?
Yes, because they were out of wedlock. And in fact, I'm going to say something if I'm allowed here. They might not like me saying this in Ireland, but I am a single mother. And divorce here was not allowed until 15 years ago or so. It was illegal. Okay. And as a single mother, I am very, very treated very badly. I have an issue in courts at the moment with my other half. And I cannot go into details because I will go to jail if I speak about it. That's how it is. So single mothers.
Irish Catholic, come on.
Ireland's
you got to
very
have 9 kids and.
Yeah, it's very Catholic. And what happens in Catholic societies? The woman has no voice. The woman loses the voice, and the woman becomes cattle, property for the man, like the children. We have no rights. We have no voice. So that is something that I want to work on because, like Anne Tottenham, I got pregnant out of wedlock myself. And I was treated very harshly by my parents, who were Catholics. I was treated very harshly when I came here. My son is being picked on because he doesn't have a dad at school. And in the little village I lived in, people would, if they crossed me in the street, they wouldn't say hi to me, or they would cross the road not to speak to me. So, I mean, I don't think that's acceptable because as a single parent, I've struggled and I've worked very, very hard, you know, harder than most people. It's very difficult to run a house on your own, you know, and I've brought my son is 15 now, almost 16, you know, on my own. But going back 300 years ago, when this poor lady was alive, you can imagine, you know, what they did. It was a disgrace for the family. And what I think happened is that this lady was not locked up in the attic, as they say, or in the tapestry room where she died, because this family was social. They were using the house for meeting venues for Masons. You know, they're not going to have somebody screaming, you know, while people are coming to the house. So she would be in her bedroom, which would have been on the second floor. In that, there's a picture, we can pull it up, Jeremy, please, of a landing, and it looks blue, because I want to mention that. Like a blue landing. Like the stair.
Okay. I think this is it. I could be wrong, but I think this is it. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's it. That it?
Yes, that's it. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. That's a beautiful picture taken by my colleague Steve Myler. Sorry. And okay, this landing is significant, okay, because that's where I encountered Anne. In the story I told you guys before about not being able to open a door, That's where we were. So we were just in the landing up there, and I went all the way down and came up, but everything in the house has a number. Okay, so numerology is also used. So if you look at the little lights here, you can actually count them. There's another photo that I sent you afterwards. There will be 8. Okay, there will be 8. 8 is a number of resurrection and eternity. You would turn it on its side. It's a snake that bites its tail. It's the Ouroboros, so it's resurrection, birth, and death, and very much illustrates the energy of the house. There is a cycle of death, birth, and resurrection in the house. But Anne would have been, her room would have been in that floor that you see there. Okay, so she would have been probably staying away there. What I experienced, and that's why I say they wrote the book with me. I would sometimes in dreams or in that hypnagogic state, where we're half awake, half asleep, which is where we are more receptive to things from the other world, but also where we get messages from the universe, and when spirits find it easier to communicate with us. Okay, in a hypnagogic state. And in that state, we are basically, the brain waves are theta brain waves. And theta brain waves, you can do a lot of meditations with them. I do them, and I think they're very, very healing. But they help to connect with your subconscious, which is where you're going to get the messages, sometimes from the other world, and spirits, and the universe, and information. Actually, you're going to maybe process information, things you see, and later on, so in that state, you can experience those things. But sorry, where was I going with this? I've kind of lost the plot here. It's been a long day. Oh yeah, the second floor. So I think because I experienced this in dreams, and I just felt it. I couldn't dispute it otherwise. That vortex that I mentioned in the room, the ley lines crossing, it was downstairs, okay, where I experienced it. But obviously vortexes don't stay only on one level. You can find them as you go up. And when I first had the experience in the house, and there was a paranormal team, I was asked if I wanted to stay in a room on my own for a little while on another floor. This is like the middle floor. Okay, there's another floor on top of that. And I chose a room that was 13. Okay, for whatever reason, I chose 13. And I hated that room. I hate the dark, by the way. It's a bad thing if you're a paranormal investigator, but I hate the dark. I absolutely hate it. Yeah. And I've never gotten used to it. But I stayed in that room. It was terrifying because there was something very dark. The third floor of Loftus Hall, anybody, and Zach was there. You mentioned Zach Bagans before. He had all the experiences in the top floor, which is above this one. And yes, well, I was in room 13, so that was next door to where he had that. There's something there, and my colleague, I've done a podcast with him, and he says that he never believed in any of this, but we were there one day at noon, and he watched the color drain from my face because I couldn't tell him what I felt was coming, and I thought, we have to go, guys. We have to go now. The house will tell you, and you have to go, but anyway, in that floor, when I was in room 13, I felt that I had to ask for a room 7 suddenly. I don't know why. And I said, do you guys have a room 7 here? I need to just to touch it. That's all. I need to touch it. And they said, well, we do have a room 7, but you can't go in because the floor has fallen through. So it's very unsafe, and you don't really have much of a floor left. However, why did you ask for this room? They said to me. Why did you want this room specifically? I said, because something is pulling me there. I feel this is where she died. I need to touch the door. So I touched the door, and I was there for a little while, and I felt that's what it was, but not that room, because that wouldn't have existed, that floor. And when we actually looked at the ley lines later and the markers and everything else, it was exactly, if you look at, this is the top floor, this is the middle one, and then the bottom one where I experienced the vortex, exactly, in the right place. So for me, she died there. So then I did some crystal work with a pendulum. I always have a pendulum. And I was with Steve, my colleague. I was with the tour guide of the house, Mary Nolan, who's a paranormal investigator, back in time paranormal investigators, and she organized the paranormal convention in Ireland as well. And the three of us, we were in the hallway that leads out to that landing where I had an experience with Anne. And I was doing a pendulum, holding my arm as well so it wouldn't move. And I asked the question. I said, I'm going to have to ask this. Forgive me, because I don't like doing that. Because I know things, you know, and it's a bit disrespectful to have to ask them, I think, sometimes. But I said, Anne, did you die on this floor? And my colleague will never forget it. And it's mentioned in the podcast, the crystal work that I did. The pendulum didn't just swing a yes. It swung almost out of my hand, smashing onto the wall.
Wow.
Yeah. So she died on that floor. And the vortex for me is very significant. And with spirits, you know, we're talking about ley lines before. The vortex is basically where the ley lines meet. That is incredible energy. They're incredible energy. And that's where she's felt the strongest in the house. And when I stayed overnight, I was staying outside what I think would have been her room then. The walls have changed now, but she would have been in that area. And I felt a mist around 2 a.m. just kind of hovering like that in the hallway. And then it stopped in front of me for a moment. And I remember that it was magical. And I said, thank you. Thank you. That was Anne. That was Anne. And then it went up.
She wanted her story told. And do you feel that the family murdered her? Or who do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I experienced, and I almost abandoned the project, and this is why I say that I hesitated in visiting the house, because, you know, some people call me a ghost whisperer, whatever, but I experienced the pain of these people. It's not something that is pleasant. Even in police investigations, where I would be able to tell, you know, what happened to somebody or where they had died, I experienced the last few minutes of these people and the pain. The actual knife going in somewhere, or it's horrible. It's horrible, you know, and I will have nightmares about this afterwards. And that pain, you cannot take that away from you, you know. So with Anne, what happened was I think it was like 6 months or something like that. A lot of times when I went to sleep, I wouldn't really sleep. And I used to joke with my colleague that they would visit me. So I used to put 2 chairs next to my bed. Spirits don't need chairs. But it was my way of saying to them, I honor you. You're welcome if you want to come in my sleep. You know, yeah. It was just nice. But while I was sleeping, and I really struggled with this, and I told my colleague one day, I don't think I can do this. I can't do it. I was asleep, and every night the same dream for 6 months. Fingers on my neck, squeezing really tight until I could not breathe, and I could see Anne. It was us, like if I was Anne in her body. You know, and I could see her father, and I could see what happened. And this is in the book, but I can share it if you're okay with this, just a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the last things that happens in the book, and I had to edit it at the time because it was quite disturbing. I think even though I tried to write it in the nicest Disney way possible, if you can, you know, if you will. But so I think that there was something going on with Anne. She was a victim of incest at the time. She did have a lover. The lover was murdered, okay? And the lover was Seth, and he would have been a descendant of the Templars. He would have been Catholic, descendant of the Templars, converted, conformed to the religion, to the Protestants, to keep the land, because they would have lost the land, they would have lost everything. We have penal laws at the time, so you couldn't be a Catholic, you would lose everything. So to keep what the family had, they had to convert. But then Freemasonry was in play then, and it was used by both Catholics and Protestants as a tool for power. And I think he was a Freemason. And this story of the devil and the cards, where Masons meet, and in Templar times, I see you, Michael, nodding. I think you know where I'm going with this. They would have used tokens to know who was a brother and who was, who wasn't. And cards, sometimes I think they would have been used in antiquity, but certainly in the 1800s, 1700s, tarot cards were used often to begin a meeting with the Masons. They would open a meeting with a spread of cards. Now, the Masonic, I have it behind me, the Rider-Waite. These are all my tarot cards. I have more, but so this is the one that I used in the book, the tarot, the Rider-Waite, or sorry, Waite-Smith. That's just Pamela deserves credit here, Pamela Coleman Smith. It's a deck designed by members of the Golden Dawn. So they were Rosicrucian Freemasons, and I love A. Waite. I love his work. He's a great scholar of the Grail as well. Again, I have his books on my bedside. But this deck was important because it set the blueprint for all of the other decks, and it was based on an Italian deck called the Sola Busca. It's one of the earlier decks. And A. Waite made the images, basically. Well, made the images. He told Pamela what should be on the major arcana, the secrets, and she was left to design the minor arcana to her will, pretty much. But the major arcana had to follow A. Waite's instructions in the very, very Templar Masonic. What's on the cards? You know, very, very. I mean, if you know the mysteries, if you're interested in mysteries, if we can pull the cards up for a moment, there's a picture because there's a story with this. Again, as how the spirits. There's a picture of a spirit.
The tarot card, you mean?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I must not save that one just yet. I saved a bunch of them. I didn't know which ones we were going to go through. What did I just say? I know I saw it earlier.
So being close to Halloween, do you celebrate Halloween or Samhain or?
I normally celebrate it, yeah. I mean, I tend to go and pick another haunted venue or castle and stay over with my son. And then it tends up to be work more than celebrating for me always. But yeah, this year, though, I'm working on the books of the Templars, so I might not. And I'll probably have to go to the radio, I imagine, as well. So this year I'm doing a lot of things.
I got you.
Yeah.
Is that the picture you're looking for?
No, I don't see a picture. It just says Global Strangeness. Maybe it hasn't come on.
I'm sharing it. Wait, hold on.
I don't see it either, dude.
Why is it not? All right. It was showing a second ago on my screen. Now it's not showing at all. I don't get it. All right. Hold on.
Friday the 13th in the eclipse. It's still affecting all of us. It's a
new moon.
Oh God, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
I still don't understand. I mean, the laptop fell on the floor. Can you imagine that? And it happened 20 minutes before my event, so I couldn't prepare. That's it. Thank you. Okay. Awesome.
I think it's because I had 2 pictures open. I think it's why I wasn't showing last time, but
yeah. No, this is okay. So this is important. You'll see where I'm going with this. Besides the fact that there is like an X there, and the X is one of the Templars motifs. But so this is a deck of cards that I've just shown you. This is actually this one from here. Okay. Why am I showing you this? Well, when I was writing the book, my colleague said, "How is the book going to be structured? How many chapters are we going to have?" And I said, "I don't know. I will find out." At some point, they will tell me. And one day I woke up in the morning and I called him. I said, Steve, we're going to have 15 chapters. And it's cards, major arcana 1 to 15 in order. They actually tell the story of us researching the house and the characters. And I didn't realize this at the time. This is, you discover things when you work on paranormal and psychic investigations. As time goes by, you discover more things. I think it's because it takes quite a while for your soul to process things, or your human brain to process things from the soul. But 1 to 15, okay, so that's 15 cards, right? 1 and 5 is 6, isn't it? And card number 6 is the Lovers. So the Lovers is Anne's card. It's associated with maternity, with the Lovers, obviously, a female nurturing energy. That's the card of the woman here who gets pregnant out of wedlock and is murdered, okay? And I feel that this was given to me by Anne. the 15 chapters. And what's interesting is, and we didn't do this on purpose, okay, whenever she's mentioned in the book, this is in a collector's edition, not the paperback, okay, that was the original book that I did. Whenever she's mentioned, or her lover, she tends to end up on pages whose numbers add up to 6. When she's mentioned and when there's a photo that comes up with her. So either the photo is number 6, or the photo numbers add up to 6, or the page, which is very eerie, I think. I think it's not by chance, you know.
No, I love synchronicities, and they 100% have meaning, 100%.
And even her grave, you know, her grave, the monument is listed as 166. And not only that, and before we take this photo off, okay, now this is really funny. My colleague Steve is wonderful. He's a great photographer. He took this in his own house, and he went home. I gave him my set. I said, go have fun with them, you know, go see what you do, because he didn't believe in this, you know. So he takes them home, and he does his photo afterwards, and he doesn't know anything about tarot cards. And sorry, Steve, forgive me for saying this, you know, but when I see it, I'm just like, how? What? You know, this is called the Golden Dawn spread.
Just like Scott. Just like Scott. Knows nothing about tarot cards, right, Scott?
I'm pretty badass with the tarot cards, if I do say so myself.
No.
Yeah. So what do you think about this, Scott? Because I think that the tarot, like Carl Jung used the tarot a lot to connect with the unconscious and the archetypes. And obviously a lot of the characters there are the archetypes and the characters of the house. Like the Empress is the house. We have the Emperor, who's the tyrant dad of Anne, who murders her, you know. The Priestess, it's the priestess between the two pillars, who is often identified with Mary, you know, Magdalene, or a priestess, you know, or the divine feminine energy, Shekinah, the energy of the land, the feminine energy of the land. So what do you think of all this?
I actually don't. My wife does tarot cards. I won't even let her give me a reading. I figure if you know, just don't fuck around with stuff you don't know about, and I don't know about tarot cards. So I gave Debra and Jeremy a reading. I think they had pretty bad luck. It was bad cards they got. But yeah, I don't play with stuff I don't know.
I've had like 10 tarot readings, and that literally was like the one that made the least sense in my life. So, you know.
I have tarot cards pretty much every day. So I do love using them.
Well, I mean, I find them useful for when I'm doing an investigation and when I'm working with somebody. Sometimes I'll just pick one card out, and a lot of times it will guide me, you know, or maybe the archetype in the card itself, you know. Who am I seeing? What story? What myth lives in this card that lives in this person, you know? But this was another of the gifts that was given to me by the house. And there is no question that they wrote the book with me. So, sure.
Helena, what does this display mean? What does this arrangement of cards mean?
So this display was just the 15 chapters of the book right there. So the 15 chapters in order. So we could, and my colleague decided to arrange it like that, not knowing that this was an actual spread of the Golden Dawn who produced these cards. So that was just really random, you know, that he would have arranged them by chance like that, you know.
But that's the Order of Golden Dawn. Wasn't that also Aleister Crowley's organization?
Yes, it's interesting that you say that, because I went to a masterclass on esoteric Freemasonry the other day, which is what Aleister Crowley did. Thelemic Freemasonry, everything with Thelema, which is what he set up once he left the Golden Dawn. So the Golden Dawn was set up by 3 Rosicrucian Freemasons, and Aleister Crowley joined later. W.B. Yeats, which a lot of people don't know, was also a member of the Golden Dawn. Okay. And a lot of women that were very influential at the time, and many of them were involved with theater. So women, we would have like Annie Horniman, Florence Farr, who's my favorite, who ended up running the Order of the Golden Dawn. She worked with Egyptian ceremonial magic, very much like Aleister Crowley. And Crowley, when he joined, he was very young, and there was a rivalry that developed between him and W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats is a great poet. I love his work. His poems, by the way, are not poems. They're actually incantations. That's why he reads them in such an interesting way, and the plays. He wanted to set up a mystery school with Maud Gonne, and that didn't happen. But they did something really interesting that Crowley liked, and I want to bring that to the program if I can talk about that. So Crowley was very, very quick in learning, great gifted magician, and I think he did some great things. I mean, the Thoth tarot, or Thoth, however you want to say it, based on Tahuti, the Egyptian god of alchemy. That's a great tarot. That's really interesting if you look at the images for meditation. And some of the concepts of esoteric Freemasonry and Thelemic Freemasonry, for example, the alchemical marriage, which is a sacred sex union, I really believe in that. And that comes, that's the main core of Thelemic Freemasonry and esoteric Freemasonry. And there's a woman, if I can show her book, actually, this lady here, American, Ida Craddock. So this book is called Sexual Outlaw, Erotic Mystic. So
I read that.
You read that?
Oh yeah.
So
that title sells me right away. That title sells me.
Of course, Jeremy did.
You're talking to a man who has the Kama Sutra on his living room bookcase. So.
Oh, well, then you should check out my bookcase and my upcoming books. So I work with women's mysteries, and I'm currently with the Templars. Everything is reading back to the ancient rites of the fertility goddesses and the alchemical union with the sun and the moon, the sovereignty of the land that was passed on to the king through a sacred sex ritual. So Thelema and esoteric Freemasonry is very much about that. So it's a transformation, an alchemical transformation through sex. And this lady, her work was featured in the Equinox. The Equinox was the magazine that Aleister Crowley had, and he loved her work. And it's interesting because she talked about astral sex, and she talked about, this is very progressive for the time, okay? She was actually committed suicide because they were going to jail her for this. And she talked about having an angelic marriage, which is very nice. She was married to a ghost, an angel, whatever you want to call him, but, she was married to him, and she had sex with him. And this is what Maud Gonne and W.B. Yeats did. They had astral sex back then. But actually, the Egyptians did too. Huh?
Isn't that called, spectro something or other?
Yes, ecstasy. Yes, something like that.
Yeah,
there's lots of names.
I did an episode with a former porn star on my show who's into that now.
Really? Is that what porn stars do nowadays? Get into sacred...
Johnny G. He was into spectralysis, or what the hell it's called. He was into sex with ghosts. It was the weirdest episode I ever did in my life.
Okay, so I might give you guys a sneak preview here, or something that I'm working on, which is going to be part of my work, and is very much connected to the Knights Templar, the Cathars, Gnosticism, even Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Hey, I'm going to throw it all in. So I have been doing research into this, and the paranormal is very much connected to our senses, and sex is one of the most powerful energies in the world, and if you can tap into that with the chakras and with ley lines, that's a whole different ball game. And that's what the Knights Templars were doing, and that's why they were invincible in battle, and they were healing themselves, and they didn't age, they didn't seem to age. I mean, people, yesterday somebody freaked out in the jacuzzi in the hotel because you can't have a 15-year-old. I'm 37. How old are you? I said, I'm 47. I'm almost 50. And they didn't believe me. But I've worked with energy, with tantric energy all my life. I think it shows. So I never get sick. I did have cancer. Cancer's gone. So I had surgery. That was it. And if you know how to work with energies, and you tap into the earth chakras as well, and you use Kundalini energy, sexual energy, which is what these people were doing. It wasn't, sex for sex or just for orgasms or whatever, which, by the way, this is going to be funny, but I mentioned the sovereignty of the land and the priestesses having sacred sex. The word orgasm, where do you think that comes from? Or what it meant? Because it was a word that existed in ancient times. So priests would represent the goddess having sex with the king, okay? And that was a sacred union. They would pass on the sovereignty of the land to the ruler. They would anoint him, which is what Mary Magdalene did with Jesus. The whole anointing and the washing of the feet of Jesus is none other than the preparation for the sacred sex ritual, okay? But what's really interesting is that they believed that the crops and the land and so on was fertile by this ritual. So an orgasm was actually the word used to refer to a fertile plot of land. So when you're having an orgasm, you're having a fertile plot of land, you know. It's interesting. So
I know Scott's gonna ask this eventually anyway. So I gotta ask, what do you think about the thousands of Bigfoot erotica stories on Amazon?
The thousands of what?
Bigfoot erotica.
Bigfoot erotica.
I was gonna ask about that, Jeremy.
I know you, Scott.
I've not come across that, but I mean, I don't know if I would be able to finish a story reading without giggling, but that's interesting.
Honestly,
Jeremy's been through them all.
No, that's a lie and a half. I wish.
Bigfoot erotica. I've never heard of that. That's hilarious.
If you read
the next research,
if you read the bestseller ones, they're actually well written.
Really?
See what I mean? He's done them all. He's done them all.
What I can give you a sneak preview of my work, which is going to, I don't know how. I mean, again, I'm guided here. I'm the messenger. I'm not, I'm following orders, but my work keeps taking me back to sacred sex, thelema, esoteric, Freemasonry, all these things, which are very, very much connected. And they were very much connected to this house. I think the Masonic rituals took place in that room that we saw before. The energy certainly speaks about it, whether or not this girl was raped or not as part of it, I don't know. But the energy there is undeniable. But part of my work is going to be bringing some of that back. And I'm actually using myself as a guinea pig. So I'll let you know I've ordered some spikenard from the Holy Land. I've ordered quite a few things. Oh, yeah. And I want to feel what these women, what these priestesses felt if I'm writing about them. So, right. And I think there's a lot of, I work with history, bringing history back into the present, because we can do so much. The ancients knew so much. They could read auras. You would go to a temple and you'd have your aura read, because we're mind, body, and spirit. Nobody does that. You go to the doctor now and the most, maybe they'll ask you how you're feeling, but they don't care about your spirit. And you need the three things for harmony, for health, So part of my work keeps taking me there in history. So you know what? I'm gonna look into it. And
that's awesome. I just have a question though. So when you're talking about self-healing and all that, what about I don't know if you're Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he does the transcendental meditations and stuff, and you do healing of the body,
yes,
using the energy. And so is that kind of the modern day version of that?
I work with something that's a little bit different, and I would dare say that I might have coined the term myself. So I do something that is called soul archaeology. And soul archaeology, I like to use that term to describe it, because I work with the chakras, but I work with the archetypes as well. I think it's very much what Jung wanted to do, but he started on it and then he died and he didn't really progress. Now, a lot of psychologists will work with the myths and the archetypes, but Jung did a lot of work with the chakras, and he has a lecture in 1932 in Munich, just talking about Kundalini and the chakras and everything else. So soul archaeology, for me, when I heal people with energy and meditations, I do shamanic ancestral meditations as well. So I will, for example, put on a track. This is something people really like in my workshops, and I'll guide them into meditation. And they tend to be interactive meditations. So people will go, we're walking into a forest. The forest is basically the subconscious, or the soul, if you want to call it that, And then they will look into a lake sometimes, and the lake sort of tends to reflect the things that people, the shadows, the fears that they don't want to look at. I mean, this is all based on the psychology of Mary Woodman. So, you know, it's very good. But then, like video games that we used to play, you know, Monkey Island and things where you get a treasure and you get it, you know, I used to love it. You get tools and things and whatever. So people will be given gifts. So we go to a cave, we open a box, and everybody will have a different gift, and then we discuss it in class. And it's amazing what people find, because it's always very relevant to them, you know, and it gives them a lot of insight on what they have to change in their life. And it gives us, I mean, I can look at a person right now and know, you know, after I talk to them a little bit, you know, what chakras, because I will look at them and what chakras need balancing just by the energy that I'm feeling from them. And often those chakras will be tied to an archetype. So, for example, I have a patient from Florida who I met a year ago. She is a darling girl, but she had lupus. She's bipolar. She had severe clinical depression. You name it, she had it, you know. And she had been abused as well a lot, you know, and she struggled a lot with sexuality as well. So when I talked to her, I said, she's very intuitive. She's very connected to the spirit. She's pagan. And she was telling me, so her throat chakra is great, you know, her brow chakra is great, connection with spirit. But the physical chakras, she was very much struggling to say no to people. She was struggling with her self-confidence. She was struggling sexually as well. That's the physical chakras, okay? So we can look at the body. They're invisible. Upper, lower. Upper have to do with spirit, as above, so below. Here we go again. The physical have to do with the body, with our existence on this plane. And the physical, for her, I noticed that the physical tend to affect people with depression, anxiety, willpower. That's a solar plexus. So this girl was very much a caretaker. And I made her read with me the story of Persephone, and when she gets taken to the kingdom by Hades. Now, Persephone has two sides. She has the maiden, the spring, the youth. Then she has a very scary side as well, you know.
That's a dark-ass story to go with.
I know. Well, my Persephone maiden, who is lovely, has turned into a real seductive Kore. And, you know, and she's engaged now. And she's turned her life around in less than a year. And she'd been referred to me by a friend. Now, I'm not charging her a penny at all. So, and this is my offering to the goddess Hecate. So, to charge, to help another sister. So, I see her free. But for me, it's been a joy to see somebody turn their life around like that, and see somebody that couldn't even tidy their bedroom or get out or have a shower, you know, made up with her mom, get engaged, have her house tidy, you know, all these things, get into spirituality now. She's looking to become a druid, of all things, you know. So spirituality is very, very, very important in healing. And trance meditations, I've done a lot with her of these journeys, which involve the theta brainwave state, because you're using binaural beats. So you're working with the theta brainwave frequency, which is the frequency that trance mediums use. And that's working with your heart chakra as well, because we say that the theta brainwave frequency is the frequency of the heart. The waves have been measured and actually green. And the heart chakra is the invisible bridge to the other world and our world. But it was what was used for astral travel. It's the heart chakra is connected to the astral layer. So it's a gateway, you know, and the Egyptians were very, very proficient in this. Again, in my talk with the Templars, I talked about different hieroglyphs. I'm a member of the Egypt Exploration Society. And in Egypt, we have medicine and magic are one. And the Egyptians had two hieroglyphs for heart, okay? They had a spiritual heart, which was the Ib, and it looks like a little container, a vessel, which is very much what the heart chakra is, a vessel. And then they had the physical anatomical heart of flesh that we have beating in our bodies, which was the Hati, the head of a lion and the paws, okay? And how do we know that they worked with the heart chakra? and theta brainwaves and astral. This is really interesting because you look at the pyramid text and you look at the hieroglyphs and you look at the drawings. Probably all of you guys are familiar with the weighing of the heart ceremony, where you see the scales. Yeah. And Anubis leading the deceased into the judgment. They're going to see if their heart is heavier than the feather of the heart.
I got to ask, if you're bringing that up,
Go on.
Have you read Neil Gaiman's American Gods?
Yes, I have. And I have the DVD as well. I love Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman he's got to be the best audiobook narrator I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He did the Norse mythology book too. That was awesome.
Yes, he did. And actually, he did another book. If you let me go get it, it's a bit naughty. But since we've been on the subject of naughty books.
Oh, we are naughty here, so go ahead. And Debra, do you want to learn some tricks from Helena?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you want to learn some tricks from Helena? Just saying, bring the sex magic to Canada.
Oh, there's some sex magic already in Canada. Don't you worry.
Oh, I gotta go to Canada. Shit.
Have you guys read this one?
The Sleeper and the Spindle.
So it's a beautiful book. It's beautifully illustrated, and it's basically the Sleeping Beauty story, except it's erotic and made into a lesbian story. So it's quite interesting. And it's by Neil Gaiman, but it's a beautiful book. I have it in my bedroom as a book. Of course, it looks very innocent, but it's not. So
yeah, he does the best narration I've ever.
Yeah,
he's anyone on Audible.
He's one of my favorites, and Neverwhere, and it's just non-stop. He's really amazing.
He did some of the Sandman series too, I think.
Oh yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
And his sister, Deb, and that's lovely. I used to be a goth, so I love all of that stuff. I'm still a goth, always a goth, once a goth, but you never grow out of that.
Okay, cool. So what do you think about the thing they're doing in England with like the mapping out DMT world? Does that tie into anything have you ever messed with that?
I've heard of this. No. What are they doing exactly?
So I think it's Cambridge, but they're giving people high dose DMT trips, but it's through an IV, so it's for like 30 minutes to an hour long, and they're mapping out whatever place you go to.
I think it's like a shortcut to astral projections or remote viewings. It's the drugs project you into that state. So then people are meet and they can, actually map out. And if enough same information, then it's, legit. So they're kind of verifying it that way.
Well, I think that's like the DMT naturally releases from your body through all that.
It does through meditation, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of fast tracking it with a drug, right? To stimulate that release.
So I'm not familiar with what they're doing in the UK with this, but I can comment two things on this that I would say. And I have friends and people that I know that work with ayahuasca and things like that. So there's a historian and journalist called Paul Devereux. He's British. He has a great site and he works with sacred geography. And he did a lot of work in South America on the Nazca lines, the famous landing strips for aliens not. So he discovered pottery fragments in caves nearby, and his theory, which I agree with, is that the Nazca lines were actually lines to guide the shamans when they were flying back across the land and coming back from their trips, because they found the pottery fragments and they found what seemed to be plants, hallucinogenic plants on the fragments that they would have taken to take these trips. So that's one thing. Yes, drugs have been used for that. However, if we're really talking about astral astral is connected to the heart chakra always. Okay, we have 7 main chakras and 7 layers of the aura or subtle bodies, right? And the heart chakra is the astral layer. And that's how the Egyptians also did travel with that and so on, you know, what I was talking about with the feather before and everything. If you're working with your chakras to do astral travel, which for me is the only way, and you're working with drugs, we've got a problem here. Because you cannot, drugs affect the chakras. They affect grounding. People forget about all these things, but you need to ground because you need to be anchored to the present moment, because this is where all the paranoias and psychological issues happen afterwards, because people are not grounded and they're working with substances and they're not, you know, they're fast tracking, as you say. But fast tracking for me is like junk food nowadays. It's not good. Might give you a nice experience.
Every once in a while, you know.
I mean, I'm not trying to convince anybody not to take drugs or to take drugs, but what I'm saying is, if we really want an authentic astral experience as it should be, I wouldn't do it with drugs. You know,
and I'm pretty new to all of this, but my sort of take on this is, if you do it through meditation, like you practiced, you're grounded, like you say, and you also know when negative energies come, how to rid yourself of that, or, you know. So when you're fast tracking, if there's something scary, I mean, that's traumatizing, I think. So
of course it is.
About that is,
I mean,
fast track into that, and then it's some terrifying experience.
So
personally, as someone who does Reiki, and like I do Reiki stoned, because I think it opens me up more. I feel more of my spirit when I'm like that than I do when I'm sober. So
maybe, I mean, you know, but I've come across a lot of people that have had really bad experiences, and the thing is, any substance, even Tylenol, will affect your chakras, you know. So you've got to, if you're working with chakras, bear that one in mind. You're not going to be able to control things as well. The other thing that I'll throw in the mix here that nobody's considering, and I have to speak about this since I'm now priestess, according to the Irish press, they call me a priestess, and I'm working with sacred sex and all these things. It's that actually sex leads into trance and leads into astral travel itself. People. And that has no secondary side effects. And so make love, not war. What can I say?
Well, sometimes you can get some diseases and stuff. So
okay, yes, okay. You know, but I'm talking about with your partner, you have a stable relationship, you know who you're sleeping with, and it's not sleeping, okay? This is where you get into tantric sex and things like that. You know, it's a whole different ball game. But I've experienced moments that I honestly found it very hard not to slip into trance after I'd had a very intimate moment, you know, sexually. And it was very, very kind of frustrating because I didn't want to go into trance, you know? So just putting that one out there.
We lost him. He's running away.
I scared him. All this sex talk.
I'm here. I'm listening. I'm just I'm doing stuff. I'm listening.
Yeah, well, I still feel like it's safest to do this slowly and surely, you know, build up through meditation, your skills and whatever, and then delve into it that way. But that being said, I'm a real baby when it comes to, well, drugs. I've never done any, even wine or whatever. I wouldn't mess around. Trying to connect with spirit. If I've had a glass of wine or anything, I'm very clear-headed when you're doing it. Very clear-headed. So. Well,
according to Debra, sacred sex already exists in Canada, so you know.
Why wouldn't
really?
It's a huge.
No. I'll probably get kicked out of Ireland or maybe burnt at the stake, but I'm gonna have to. Promote it in Ireland. So, Debra, I want to pick up on something that you said, which is awesome as always. What you said about wine and spirits and things. So, something that completely traumatized me here in Ireland is some places have these wining and dining things, and you know, and they mix sort of, you know, spirit sessions or kind of lockdowns or whatever with people having dinner and drinking. And you probably now, when I'm saying this, are understanding why I'm saying this, but you cannot ground and protect with alcohol in your body. Yeah. Forget it. Forget it. And spirits are called spirits because of spirits, because when you're in that state and you go to a pub, it's very easy for a spirit to just hitchhike a ride through you. So, you know, it's not that you can't go out and drink and you think you're going to bring something home with you. But there are ways and ways of doing this, you know. But a lot of people who hang in bars, they will bring things with them home, you know.
I mean, typical.
See, this is why I don't do tarot cards.
And
better safe than sorry.
Jesus Christ. Typically, Scott, I mean, I think in America, if we go out for spirits at a bar, we're hoping to bring something home with us. I mean, whether it's actually like
different kind of spirit.
But then you have to get the sage out the next morning and get her out.
Depends how much it was sacred or not. Goddamn, Debra.
But okay. So a different kind of hitchhiking or hitch riding. Not so much in a bar, but let's talk about hospitals, because that happens in hospitals. And again, it's because you're not grounded and you're not controlling your chakras. So when you go and have surgery and you get anesthetics and you're drugged and in that state, oh, that's like a free pass.
See, I don't do hospitals either.
Scott, you're very, very sane here. I think you're the most
Scott breaks it
of all of us.
Scott breaks his arm and he's like, oh, it's just a scratch.
Yeah, he's playing very, very safe. I'm impressed, Scott.
My
problem is never mind the spirits, but I'm a bit of a huge empath, and so it's the human emotions I take on too.
Yeah,
so, that's the most frustrating thing for me that I've been learning about, learning how to deal with. But so bars and things like that, I mean, there's a lot of all kinds of emotions and low vibrational whatever going on because everybody's, you know, loose and whatever, not grounded like you're saying. So yeah,
I find it hard. You know, it's not that I'm antisocial, you know, but I really don't like going into bars.
Yeah, me too. For that reason.
You know, and I do like enjoying a nice drink. I mean, I was having a Templar beer before we got on here, which is something that I'm going to be involved with actually, because I've created a medieval wine, or rather resurrected from the dead, a wine that was drunk by Templars. But there's something about, you know, going to places with a lot of people. Even when I go downtown or shopping, I always tell people to protect. And imagine you're wearing an armor of lead. You know, I think that's one of the most protective things, you know, or a lot of people do this wrongly and surround themselves with the bubble of white light, please. You know, indigo or blue, purple light, not white light. There's a lady whose book I have, where is it? Spirit Release. Here it is. Sorry if I can show it for a minute. So, this is written by Sue Allen. Sue Allen was a teacher, I think, almost 30 years at the London College of Psychic Studies, where I'm a member. I was trained, and I've been in talks with the college to teach there myself. So they've said yes. So I'm going to be a lecturer and a teacher at the famous London College of Psychic Studies. That was my dream since I was a little girl. So that was last week that I was talking to them. Possibly Knights Templar, Freemasonry, esoteric things and ancient energies.
Shit, we need that. We need that in America. We need those classes in America. Like, come on.
Well, I do them online, guys. So help me get the word out, you know, because I teach all of these things online. I have actually now an Eventbrite, some workshops on negative energy, cord cutting, you know, clearing energy. And the white light is one of the things that I say, because when you will probably know when you go to a haunted house, and if you're lucky, they do any grounding or protection, these guys, and they always say, surround yourself with a bubble of white light. And at that point, I leave the building like Elvis, you know, because I'm just like, this is nonsense. A white light is going to attract every kind of entity in the building to you. It's like having a neon sign saying, hey, come and possess me. So We do purple. If you believe in protection, we would do purple or indigo, like Sue Allen's book says, because that cloaks your energy from negative entities. So you can still interact with spirits that want to interact for the highest good, or who are human and who were once human and don't mean any harm, what we call the non-dark force entities, spirits of the light. But you're cloaking yourself from the ones that are not there to do any service for humanity and our demons and dark forces and so on. I think that's very important to know that,
My greatest thing is, I don't understand why this isn't taught in schools. Think of how much
big religion, Debra, big religion.
Well, and
right.
politics and whatever. But my gosh, could people really run their lives different if they knew how to rid themselves of blocks and negative and energies?
But then they wouldn't be tools in the Illuminati's machine, Debra. Come on now.
Well, I understand there's a purpose behind not teaching this and keeping it away from people, but my gosh, could this change everything?
There is and there isn't. So just drawing from Freemasonry here, there's an expression, hoodwinked. When a person comes to become a Freemason and they enter as an entered apprentice, it's said of that person that they're hoodwinked, that they have a blindfold on, because they're not really experiencing the world as it is. Now, I've had a few Kundalini awakenings, so I know the person I am today and the things that I feel and see, even right now talking to you guys, I wouldn't have 5 years ago, because I was more hoodwinked than I am now. This happens to most people. And unfortunately, what's very sad is that they're getting, let's say, 10% of the real experience of life. And they could be they might still have the same problems. They might still have issues with their parents or not have a partner or whatever. But by not being hoodwinked and perceiving messages from the universe, seeing things in a different way, because they're there, at that level, they have more insight, their experience of life would be much richer, and I think would give them the tools to overcome depression, to possibly attract better people into their lives, and while it might
choose a better life, you can choose.
Yeah, well, it might not make them a millionaire instantly, but actually it can lead to a lot of things, and maybe they do end up there. But most people, and this maybe is for discussion, most people tend to have affairs or quit their jobs or look for a new house when they feel like they're not satisfied with something. They feel like there's something missing in their lives, and when they do that, it works for a while. The new girlfriend is cool for a while, or the new mistress or whatever. But then they feel the same way again, that whatever they found that was quenching their hunger or thirst no longer satisfies them. Why is that? Because they're not in touch with their souls, and they're not in touch. It's not about religion or going to church or going to God, God. It's about seeing the bigger picture and actually living life properly.
Well, I mean, toys get old. Toys get old.
Huh?
Toys get old. I mean, that's just a fact of life from when you're a kid to when you're an adult. I mean, you buy a new Xbox, you're only going to play it like hardcore for a couple months, and then you're going to like play it like once a month when you have time.
Maybe, but for example, my life is not perfect. I have a lot of things that I wish I could change. From parents to things. I raised my son on my own.
Amen.
But
this is the guy we're dealing with. He's gonna quit the podcast here pretty soon.
No,
he's already tired of us.
Talk about Mike. Mike ain't gonna quit the podcast. He loves us.
That's great. This is good.
I wasn't talking about Mike.
I ain't quitting the podcast anytime soon, brother. I helped you start this thing. I don't quit podcasts.
We've been going strong for over a year. We love each other. Nobody's quitting.
So
Debra, one? Give me locked in Canadian jail to get me off this podcast.
Which one detracts the ghosts? I got green. I got purple.
So
use the purple one.
The purple. What purple light is used for is to cloak your energy from negative entities. So the green, I'm not sure about that. So
Okay.
White light we use for cleansing and energizing, and this is as taught by the College of Psychic Studies. And actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar where the white light comes from. Yeah, that's it, white light. So where does the white light?
That'll get rid of the ghost?
To get rid of the ghost. Why do you want to get rid of the ghost?
Me and them don't get along very well.
Seriously, if you could tame the ghost in my house, we do the little bit of cedar burning and Santo Ano burning. Like, no, we don't use sage. We use, my Reiki master sent me cedar and Santo Ano or Palo Anto, something like that. Santo Palo, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She sent me those, and we use those. But it basically makes the ghost stoned, and they walk around according to mediums.
So the white light comes from the book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, if you guys want to look it up. So, and to get rid of the ghost, if you want to get rid of a ghost, as you say, which I think is quite rude, Scott.
That's what I think too.
Well,
let him live.
Yeah,
Spider. Let him, let him.
If I'm in a room for that, they can have the room when I'm gone. We're sharing. Sharing is caring.
One of the best ways for a spirit to sort of leave is when they realize that they're dead. Okay, when they realize that they're dead. So a lot of the times it's just easy, very easy to do spirit release when you actually engage with the ghost and not say, give me a sign and knock on a door and all these stupid things, but you actually have a conversation with him, and you might not be talking, but you put it out there and it will be heard. And you ask things like, okay, so when was the last time you paid your rent? When was the last time you ate? Then they realize. And that's when the moment kicks in. They're gone. Sometimes it takes more than that, obviously. But they need to know their stories. They need to know that they're dead. And this is why when we're talking about the hospitals before, and you're under anesthetics and you have surgery and you die in that state, you don't know that you died. So you tend to either go back home or hang out there because you don't know. You were in that state, your chakras were out, everything was out. So you tend to hang out, but when you become aware that you died, then that's the moment that they can leave. And that's a very powerful moment.
Just a conversation, Scott. That's all you got to do. That's
my next game plan. Next time I think there's a ghost. When did you pay rent last? Get out of here.
Can I share just one? It was a very endearing moment about this in the college. This is a very quick one. But there was one of my teachers shared, who was trained by Sue Allen, the lady, the book that I showed, and they had a little boy that wouldn't pass. Okay, that wouldn't pass into the other world and was hanging around. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to get rid of my ghost. I like him. But if they don't go where they have to be, besides not getting eternal rest, spirits can become a shell for demonic entities and other things. This is something that people don't realize. Okay, they can be possessed too, if you want to look at it that way. But anyway, this little boy wouldn't pass. And he wouldn't pass. And normally, sometimes you can call and somebody in the family to come and get them. That's usually supposedly what happens when you die. Somebody that you know, a relative, will come and get you. But this little boy didn't want that. He wanted his dog. And his dog came to get him. And he didn't pass until the dog came to get him. And that was one of the most moving stories for me.
Well, just watch The Conjuring 2. Spirits can be controlled by demons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That damn nun. That's why I don't trust the Catholic religion.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
I mean that and all the boy diddling, but
I think we should all go to the Vatican and have a show there with them.
I swear, why the U.S. Army hasn't invaded the Vatican yet is fucking beyond me. It's fucking beyond me. There's so much information in there. We could control the world. Sorry, Debra. We control the world.
Well, guys, I'll just put it out there. If you guys, if you get the resources, I've got the language. I speak fluent Italian and Latin. So, yeah.
Let's get it planned, you guys. Let's get it planned.
We don't want them knowing what we're saying. We just want to see our military screaming words they don't understand, going for the bookcase.
Yeah, you need her for the
Once
book.
I'm president.
You understand that, right?
That's
Scott
all
will
I
be-
care about. I don't want. They can
Scott-
keep all their art.
Scott will be in the front of the military with his AK-47 and his pistol in each hand and ready to go.
I want to see that library, dude. I don't think it's right that they have it all.
I agree.
Private libraries. Have you guys come to Ireland? Have you seen the library in Dublin, the Long Room in Trinity College?
It's amazing. I took some great photographs of that when I was there a few years ago. Just spectacular.
It's really nice. It's really nice. And did you get to? Because some people miss this one, but if you come back to Ireland, there's a really special one where Bram Stoker was, and he was researching the maps for Transylvania for Dracula. Marsh's Library, and Marsh's Library is very, very haunted, but it has the actual cages where you would be put to read a book because books are so valuable that they didn't want you to steal them, so they'd lock you up in a cage to read a book.
Really?
It's quite, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Marsh's Library. It has a website. You can check it out.
Okay.
But it has a haunting. There was an Egyptian mummy found there as well. So lots of haunting ghost stories in Marsh's Library.
Ooh. Okay.
You've been everywhere, Michael.
All right. Oh, well, he's a world traveler. We know that now. But and Helena, I'm just gonna say, I gotta get you on my show.
Okay, sure. That'd be a pleasure.
I mean, I'm booked out till January at this point, but I'm definitely gonna get you on in the future.
Okay, well, that'd be great. I look forward to that, and it's been great having you. Being here with you guys, tonight. I mean, Debra, I met you before. Scott, I didn't know you. Michael and Jeremy, it's been fun, and I definitely look forward to coming back again if you guys want, and staying in touch.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime you like. I mean,
this was great.
I want to hear some of your free. I want to hear. I'm saving those for my show, but I want to hear freaking experience to my show. Like, I got. Trust me, I got questions I ask people like you that are very specific and will make for the most interesting stories to come out.
Okay, well, I look forward to that.
Not in any of the way that the people my co-hosts are thinking about. So just saying.
Do we need any wine?
Especially Scott.
Especially Scott.
He's lying right now.
Don't listen to Scott ever. Scott thinks that birds aren't real.
Really?
They're not. They're robots created by the government.
Maybe. Who knows?
Who's going to encourage any of these?
Not to interrupt that thought, but Helen, I wanted to congratulate you on the book and your success.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to promote it on my show as well. And congratulations on being a successful single mother as well, because that needs to be congratulated in my mind. So
thank you. That's really sweet.
We need you back because I feel like this conversation could just keep going and going. There's just so much more that we need to talk about, and you're fascinating. You've done all the things that I think are exciting and I'd like to do, but you've done them. So well,
it comes at a price. I haven't had much of a personal life, I must say. So, and I broke my leg. I mean, I'm recovering. I don't know if you knew, guys. I think I told you, but I had a double fracture. Yeah. Wow. So, but with the Templar books, you might be interested to know that I am working in the paranormal with that. So it's not just history and esoteric knowledge and stuff. I mean, I am being guided to things by spirits. And yesterday, I published some photos in Facebook because I went to visit their graves, and I sit there and I talk a lot. And Seth, the character of the book, who was the Freemason and Templar, he's very much a real spirit, and I feel he's become like my guide in a way because he has stuck around. So that's really nice. Humans working with spirits together. It's nice. It's not all about hunting the ghosts and chasing them. And what I always say to investigators, if I can add this tonight before we leave, if you're attracted by the paranormal, as Lorraine Warren would have said, make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons and that you give back, that you always give back.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't be no damn Ghostbusters going out there throwing your proton packs trying to capture ghosts. That's not cool. That's not cool.
No, it's not.
It's a cohesive relationship, and that's what it should be. 100%.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Well, Helena,
before we get out of here, It's October. Helena, what is your Halloween movie pick for this month?
What's your favorite horror movie, and hopefully something Irish that we haven't seen?
Oh gosh.
And we've seen Hole.
You've put me in a spot now. All right. If you want to go silent movie, you could do The Phantom Carriage. I would suggest that. I like that one. You know why? The scene with The Shining with Jack Nicholson going through the door. A lot of people don't know that actually comes from that Swedish movie, early silent movie. And I think it's quite more disturbing there. And I'll give you one that I really like. It's more modern. It's not so castle and haunted house. Let the Right One In, but the Swedish version.
Oh, I watched that. I did not like that movie. I don't know why.
The Swedish one. You did not like it.
Okay, well, one, if I'm going to read subtitles in any fucking movie, it's going to be the best movie I've ever seen in my fucking life. And two, we're doing a demon movie bracket on my show eventually, but demon movies to me are so undersold and not realistic.
I liked it because I've been in Sweden a lot, and there's a very particular sound of snow in winter and silence that really is very eerie and only happens in Scandinavian horror movies. And if you guys haven't checked it out, I know that the subtitles is a thing, but then you could learn Swedish, you know. Tala little svenska. So,
if that was true, I would have learned Mandarin by now. Thank you. But
they bear in mind that they spend half the year in darkness, and especially in the northern parts, they sometimes don't see the sun for quite a few months. So if you're into vampires and really kind of horrific stuff like that,
Debra.
Scandinavian Swedish movies.
You mentioned vampires, and Debra discussed Guard the Couch. I mean, come on now.
Oh my God, rude. But I do.
I'm very much actually vampires. What is this? I had my card here. Here, just for fun.
The Dracula what? Oh, the Dracula Society. I fucking love that.
Yeah. So I was a member of that. So I am involved in academic groups, vampire studies and things like that. I will be doing a book on vampires. I did have an experience with vampires, and I'm not kidding you. So yes.
Oh man, that would have been the October story.
It wasn't this. It wasn't one of these pseudo vampire experiences that people putting fangs on and pretending blood. No, it was what made me join the College of Psychic Studies.
I cannot wait to have you on my fucking show now. Jesus Christ.
And I specialize. I don't know if you've seen that, but I do specialize in blood cults. So there are Freemasonry, again, we can talk about that. So
okay, everybody stay tuned. Episode 2 is coming because you have to come back. This is just
thank you.
Well, actually, for Scott's benefit, what do you know about Christmas horror creatures?
Oh God, Krampus and all that.
That's Scott's favorite topic in this paranormal.
Well,
I'm not wearing my Krampus sweater. I was going to be, but
I'll give you something that you guys won't know. It's not exactly horror, but since we're talking about Christmas, I think it's quite interesting. So Saint Nick, where is he buried? Does anybody know? Because I do.
Well, they supposedly have his bones. There was that fight between Italy and the pirates, right? But is that really?
They'll come in eventually.
Like they were using his bones as like miraculous. It would ooze, right? But is that really Saint Nicholas? Probably not.
No, I wouldn't say so. So I found him in Ireland, just outside of Jerpoint Abbey, County Kilkenny, and there was a Templar town there, and the Templars brought the bones of Saint Nick, and there's a grave that you see there, and all the historians agree that is Saint Nicholas, and you see. It's like a papal sort of figure, a priestly sort of religious figure, but you see 2 Templars behind him, guarding him. It's quite interesting. And that grave is a beautiful grave. And this is in outside Jerpoint Abbey, which is a Cistercian monastery. And the Cistercians are connected to the Templars because the head of the order wrote the rule, Bernard de Clairvaux. So it's a beautiful place, very eerie, the shapes, the carvings, but that is believed to be by historians the grave of St. Nicholas. So,
wow,
Cool.
fascinating.
That's where me and Michael got to go to eat our one chip challenge and do the Ouija board for the first time.
That's right. We're going to do the Ouija board in Ireland. It's going to be great.
And
Over
me and Debra
St.
are going
Nicholas's grave. Next
and me and
Christmas,
Debra-
everybody.
Me and Debra are going to do their eulogy story after they do that, but
Wow.
well, it's been, what are you guys doing for Halloween then? Any plans?
Oh,
Well, we do are you talking the show? Because we always do the horror.
Yeah, the show and personally, where are you guys going?
I mean,
Because I'll be working. I won't be going anywhere.
on the show,
We've
we're
been-
on the show we're going to be doing a most awesome and epic creatures and monsters of all time bracket.
Oh,
Part
okay.
Part one.
Well, send me the link and I'll share it on my page and I'll share it with my fans and everything.
Oh,
So
that's great.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Helena, where can they
Yeah.
find you? Where can they find your books? Where can they find everything about you? Just basically sell yourself.
so my books, Amazon. But the best place probably is on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page. Yeah. And I think I give you guys some links. I don't know if you're going to pull them up or they have them or whatever. And then
Oh my God.
my website is www.helenab.scott. So helenabscott.com. My website has pretty much everything on it. I designed it myself on top of that. So with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I hate technology.
Heck, yeah.
Well, I'm going to put this episode as a bonus episode of my show, so it'll definitely be out there, and I'll make sure to put your website in the description as well.
Please. And can you guys mention that I will be featured in the American Paranormal magazine in November? There's a feature of me. So
nice. That is my dream is to get in there. I've known a few podcasts that have gotten in there, and I'm hoping to get mine in there eventually.
Oh, well, check it out. So I will be there in November. They just showed me today the proof, and I approved it. So I think it's mid-November when it comes out, the 15th, something like that. So yeah. So anything I can do with you guys, let me know. I'm happy to share all your stuff and any specials you do or anything. And if you ever come to Ireland, let me know.
Well, absolutely. This has been fantastic. We absolutely are scheduling a session too because
If we ever get to Ireland together, you'll know. I think the whole country will know by that point.
Maybe we should do a special if we went to Ireland. Special broadcast from Ireland in a haunted place. How about that? Or Rosslyn Chapel or something in Scotland.
Yes.
I think Scott knew get kicked out of Ireland, but
we did.
That's not true, dude.
We sent Scott to.
Yeah.
I'm joining the IRA as soon as I get there.
Oh, jeez.
You would. But listeners, Scott, it's your pick next week, Scott, since you missed the last episode. What topic's next week, Scott?
Well, okay, this might be fun. So remember when when you left the podcast?
No.
And Debra and I had to find some new co-hosts? Well, one of those groups didn't fucking let my post go through until about 3 days ago. And we had some people comment on there, so why don't we let them come on and tell their ghost story?
I'm down for that 100%.
One of the investigation teams you're talking about?
Just regular people, I think.
One of the dudes is an investigator, and then another guy said he didn't want to join the podcast, but he could come on for an episode. But there's 3 people that reached out. So
okay,
backup guest, ghost stories.
Bring them on, Scott. That's a good Halloween episode, followed by another bracket the final Sunday of the month. Let's fucking do it.
Okay, viewers,
Hell yeah.
if
Ghost
you have a
stories.
personal experience and you want to get on, hit us up, comments, or get us in the DMs, and we'll get you on. You can share your story.
Or get in contact with us in somehow, some way. I'm sure you can. And if you send us your ghost story, we'll read it in funny voices. So, just saying.
We do that as well.
Yeah, I sent my ghost story for the Pixelated Paranormal show. You guys should do that too. I'll ask them for some ghost stories. Maybe we'll just do some ghost stories. That's always fun.
I'm down for doing my voices again. So,
you know, you mentioned Christmas before, so the reading of ghost stories is very much a Victorian
Christmas
tradition.
Oh,
yeah.
Trust me, last year I got an expert that had my show on for our Christmas episode. She's an expert in everything Krampus and Yule lads and all that.
Frau
She was fantastic, yeah.
If I could remember her name right now, I would freaking Rissa something. RISSA. You'll find it. It's not many people with that name. So, but
okay.
Until next week, strangers. Your favorite strangers will be back next week.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Such a great episode tonight.
We want to thank Helena for coming on one last time, of course. So
thank you. Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.